Senator Rubio, it's hard to look at you and not look down the barrel of an AR-15 and not look at Nicholas Cruz, but the point is, you're here, and there are some people who are not. And I need to ask two things of you. In the name of 17 people, you cannot ask the NRA to keep their money out of your campaign?
I think in the name of 17 people, I can pledge to you that I will support any law that will prevent a killer like this.
No, but I'm talking
getting
NRA money.
No, because...
matter of fact, I bet we can get people in here to give you exactly as much money as the NRA would have.
But it's... Now, I want to ask you about a couple of other points of the NRA. Is it true that the NRA will not consider raising the minimum age of purchasing a rifle?
Yes, that's true.
And why not?
Well, because raising the, first off, let me put it like this. The murderer in Sutherland Springs, who was stopped by an NRA member and an NRA instructor, was 27 years old.
You don't need guns for home protection. The probability that you'll be involved in a gun-related crime is 0.003%.
If I have somebody breaking into my home, I need a means of self-defense. Whether that's a handgun, whether that's an AR-15, that should be my choice. And frankly, I think the law allows that choice.
If they banned AR-15s, you could still defend yourself with your handgun.
I
Possibly.
could.
And a shotgun.
You guys are missing the key point here.
What
This is a Second Amendment right.
We're
This
not
is our
taking away your gun.
Let me finish, please.
Let
me finish, please. This is a constitutionally protected right. This is not a government legislated privilege, such as driving a car. This is a completely different conversation.
Yep, fair enough. But do you think the forefathers meant the AR-15?
I think they meant our protection against a tyrannical government and for our self-protection.
Yes. I like this point. So you want young women to be able to defend themselves. And did you need an AR-15?
Yeah, I had several rifles, in fact. The first that I ever purchased in terms of long guns was a shotgun, and then I ended up getting an AR-15. In fact, that is what that's the most popular home defense rifle for women in the United States of America.
There's breaking news in the wake of yesterday's gun policy conference at the White House. CNN is reporting that his remarks derailed some carefully laid out White House plans to roll out some different proposals. Here's a sample of what the president had to say.
Now, this is not a popular thing to say in terms of the NRA, but I'm saying it anyway. I'm going to just have to say it. But you can't buy, I mean, think of it. You can buy a handgun. You can't buy one. You have to wait till you're 21. But you can buy the kind of weapon used in the school shooting at 18.
Lots of gun laws in this country. We have areas where guns are very, very difficult to get a hold of, and the violence is no different in those. In fact, in some cases, higher in those areas than when there are no gun laws, or just the state laws. So the reality is, my feeling is, and I think most people who support the NRA and support the Second Amendment feel like, yes, this is a legitimate topic for discussion, but there are lots of other topics for discussion that could actually have more impact on school violence that are not being discussed, and that's really the problem here. It's a political movement, and it very well may be, and that's fine. I mean, if the organizers, the people who certainly supported it, the Hollywood elites and the liberal billionaires who funded this, it's all about politics. Is this really all about politics, or is it all about keeping our schools safe? Because it is about keeping our schools safe. Then we have to have much broader discussion than the discussion that's going on right now. How about kids, instead of looking to someone else to solve their problem, do something about maybe taking CPR classes or trying to deal with situations where there is a violent shooter that you can actually respond to that.
How are they looking at other people? I would ask you, they took action.
Yeah, they took action to ask someone to pass a law. They didn't take action to say, how do I, as an individual, deal with this problem? How am I going to do something about stopping bullying within my own community? What am I going to do to actually help respond to a shooter? What am I going to do? Those are the kinds of things where you can take it internally and say, here's how I'm going to deal with this. Here's how I'm going to help the situation, instead of going and protesting and saying, oh, someone else needs.
If President Obama had said, you know what, I kind of believe in taking the guns first and then going through due process second, I would imagine the NRA would have spoken out incredibly strongly about that, as would many Republicans. Again, I guess just officially, does the NRA feel betrayed by this president? I mean, due process is something I hear you and the NRA talk about all the time, and understandably, this president just said, you know what, due process comes second. Take the guns. That's the fear of so many gun owners in the NRA.
Right. And it is. I mean, it's a concern, and we want to make sure that we're just not stripping constitutional rights from people without making sure that they have their day in court. I mean, that's one of the things that NRA leadership stressed to the president Sunday when they met with him for lunch, that, look, this is a cornerstone of America. We have to respect people's due process.
Senator Rubio, I just listened to your opening, and thank you. I want to like you. Here's the problem, and I'm a brutally honest person, so I'm just going to say it up front.
Yes, sir.
When I like you, you know it, and when I'm pissed at you, you know it. Your comments this week and those of our president have been pathetically weak. Thank you. Look at me and tell me guns were the factor in the hunting of our kids in this school this week. And look at me and tell me you accept it and you will work with us to do something about guns.
I'm saying that the problems that we're facing here today cannot be solved by gun laws alone. And I'm going to tell you what we've done already and what I hope we'll do moving forward.
Were guns the factor in the hunting of our kids?
Of course they were. And here's
it's the weapon of choice. Can you say that?
Number one, Fred, I absolutely believe that in this country, if you are 18 years of age, you should not be able to buy a rifle, and I will support a law that takes that right away.
Fantastic.
I will support the banning of bump stocks, and I know that the president has ordered the attorney general to do it, and if he doesn't, we should do it by law.
Understood. But this does seem to be the choice of school shooters, okay? So at the moment, we're talking about school shootings.
An AR-15 is just a rifle, and what makes it different is the color of it, and what makes it different is the accessories that it has on it.
I get it, but somehow it has become the weapon of choice. But
the firearm didn't walk itself into school. I want to go back to that point of prevention. You know, you and I talked to Allison just a moment ago about point of sale, but I think it's important to note this individual had, the parents of this individual had made reports to law enforcement saying that he had threatened other people with a gun before.
We get it.
And that he had actually held a gun to others' heads.
All day long.
And that he had access to guns. Why was nothing done about that, though, Allison? That's what I want to know. I want to know where those headlines are. Why was nothing done about that?
Well, come
Why
on.
did he still have access? Even though law enforcement knew that he had access, he was also sending threatening messages to classmates, which is a felony.
The signals and the red flags were relentless. But I do want to ask a couple of things, because it does seem that the NRA is not part. If there's a consensus right now, and if this is the moment for some change, I just want to ask about a couple of things that the NRA seems to be outside of the mainstream on. Bump stocks. Why not ban them?
Well, the NRA actually called before the president ever said anything, before Attorney General Jeff Sessions was ever called to review it too. They said something they've made the announcement. NRA came out, Wayne LaPierre said, the ATF needs to look at the definition of this, and this is their area. This is their wheelhouse. This is
but
why,
you guys could
one of the
obviously take a position.
Exist,
you could say we don't need to turn a semi-automatic into an automatic. You could take a position and say, let's ban them.
Proud of these kids. I know you're proud of these kids too, because you can do both.
I'm proud of them, but I think everyone should be responsible and deal with the problems that we have to confront in our lives. And ignoring those problems and saying they're not going to come to me and saying some phony gun law is going to solve it. Phony gun laws don't solve these problems. That's what we found out.
Look, I'm sorry. I believe in the Second Amendment. I own guns. I've owned guns all my adult life. But I also believe that they can be regulated, and that the kind of guns I can own, the kinds of guns I can own, do not necessarily include weapons that were designed primarily for military use.
We've been told that we need to listen to the children. I do what the children ask. Are there any children on this floor? Are there any children making laws? Do we allow the children to tell us that we should pass a law that says no homework? Or you finish high school at the age of 12 just because they want it so? No. The adults make the laws because we have the age, we have the wisdom, and we have the experience.
The bottom line is, Fred, these young people holding all of their signs, they're here with one message. They want stricter gun laws. You know, the Trump administration just on Friday, they proposed a rule which would essentially ban bump stocks, that gun accessory that would make it possible for an individual with a weapon to essentially fire automatically. But the people in this crowd say that is not enough. They want to see more. They want to see the age raised for purchasing a gun. They want to see an all-out ban on assault weapons.
What do you think will happen? What are you hoping will happen after this march? I mean, this march is huge and it will send a strong message, but what do you hope will happen after this?
I hope that politicians will finally do their job and protect us, that value our lives over the money of the NRA.
Fight for your lives before it's someone else's job.